There we go.
I think so. I think.
I don't think, I don't think that choice allows us to pick.
No, I don't think so.
So I don't think we legally can do it.
And one of them mentioned the charter does it. I'm like, I don't think they do. I think they stopped doing that years back. And I actually sent an email to Johnny Lynn, but she didn't get back to me.
Yeah, the charter.
And they changed it to every year it starts over type of thing.
But it was because of the legacies that
Right.
the seats kept filling up. I don't think.
Send this. I won't send the newspaper link, but I'll just send the actual story to them.
Hey, Sarah didn't mean to hang up on you. Yeah, no, sorry. Can you go? Yep. Just gonna do a counting check more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm sorry, you're breaking up. I can't hear you. Yeah. Decimator. It needs to go through that decimator. And if you should be hearing it through the monitor. Do you hear it? Okay. So did you? Yeah. Hello. How are you doing? Good. Thanks for coming in. Well, happy to be here. Can you put this down here?
Is Steve coming tonight?
He is not. He's not feeling well.
And
So yeah,
Brianna's not going to be here.
no Steve and no
Oh, okay.
Brianna. Is she? Looking good? I'm good. I'm well. Brett?
Yep.
Yes, hi, I'm Sarah Hull. Very
Nice to meet you. Yeah.
I'm friends with Joanna True. And
Oh.
She was excited to hear you were
Oh,
going to be doing another 3 years.
yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was talking to Brian and I realized I was on the school committee that voted him in the first time,
Wow.
20 years ago.
So you've
Has it
been on
been that
longer
long?
than me, huh?
Wow.
Yeah, this was my 20th year. Yeah.
Well, thank you for stepping up again. So much going
No,
on.
it's a good thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like
thank
it.
you.
New building.
Yeah, you will.
We're still
I know you
in
will.
feasibility,
Yeah.
you know?
What are we gonna do?
I don't know. I'll let you know in the morning. I think we'll put it together.
Yeah.
All right,
I
that's
was like to think
fine.
of something cool.
Sure. What you wanted to do last week?
My feet wet right now.
That was like around President's
Like they
Day,
have a
so
pretty strong
like topical. It's not President's Day anymore.
Well, we have
I have to go to the
that
hub
since, 2016.
because
That's how
the
long
girl who's at the
it's
hub
been.
that helped
Yeah,
us
I
send the
don't-
feed
are
out
we doing that
says
this
that
year? No, we're not
it
doing
has no
We're
audio,
calling it.
so
We
I'm just
have
gonna
to,
go.
just
I gotta
because
do a
Yeah.
few switcheroos.
we have to
I'm
start
gonna
dealing with
communicate
deferred
with Randall
maintenance
to let you guys
and
know when
thinking
we're
about
good to go. So if it happens to be
outside
after
the box
like
ways to
6:30,
expand our science
and then I
program.
get
because
it,
it's
I'll
just
let her.
Okay.
know
too pie in
to
the sky
All
at
right.
this point.
Thanks, Sarah.
Cool.
Disappointing.
Cool, working.
Submitting the same proposal for 3 years.
Never mind.
We get close.
Figured it out.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So good. I don't have to go with it.
Hey there.
Hey, Sarah, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
He was gonna be on the
It means you're a good, you got the good person award.
Oh, no. Oh, yeah, this is Warren always sends us these and signs them.
Oh, yeah?
What is it?
Calendar.
Oh, okay.
Like surprises. But yeah,
Well, I'm just gonna get a little organized.
we've gotten one every year.
No, that's
Because it
a
was
letter from Senator Warren. Yeah. Payroll stuff's coming.
We do have some warrants, right? Just no minutes tonight?
Yeah,
think
Phil's
that's
bringing the warrants. All right. Just grab. Okay.
community member said she was gonna pay for
I mean, that's the.
Better.
kids who aren't on the chess club. They don't get this.
Right, they're not a chess club.
That's it. And you run them all at once at the end, so you know who's on.
Well, that's nice that people would want to.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Chess
So
club.
we're gonna do FAQs. When I do the presentation, we're gonna post those on the website
Oh, great.
regarding school choice.
Are you going to make a recommendation about that?
About which one?
About numbers?
Top one.
No, but hopefully she'll.
Yeah, I don't think it would be, yeah, but I don't think, I'm gonna go through
You're
the
gonna explain that,
process,
right?
but yeah. It's not a good one to put because looking at, we get like 40 kids from kindergarten to first grade every year. So it's hard to
You're just
pinpoint.
setting that article in case people missed it?
You know what I'm saying? It's hard to say we can pick 15 when you don't know.
Oh, it's only 34 million for Newburyport. I mean, it's a little less than 1 million a kid. That's all right. That's never gonna pass. And not just here, just anywhere.
Oh, they can't hear me, right?
They would need that to pass in every
It's gonna be unanimous,
community,
yeah.
so.
Okay. Let's see. And then, yeah. Oh, these two.
The books on the shelves make a good backdrop for the pictures.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Always thinking.
Always thinking.
That.
Although I do ruminate sometimes.
For a change.
Are we down 2 people tonight or just
We
one?
are, we're
One?
not expecting Steve or Brianna. We're expecting our student reps tonight, so hopefully,
Maybe they went.
be sure they know that we're at the high school. That seemed to be a confusion, but
Really?
hopefully they know we're here.
When they show up and see the sign that it was canceled, then they go there.
The sign's like way inside.
Oh, it's
Like,
inside.
You wouldn't know from the outside. I'm just knocking on the door for 5 minutes.
Oh, it's senior center?
Yeah.
Mayor, it worked.
What? It worked. We should get together more often, Sean.
Hopefully they'll slip in. We still have 5 minutes.
Yeah.
He just needs to, he said it was good for people.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
He also would appreciate if he could sign it. Yeah, I mean, like the ones, like, personally, incredibly late on that.
To get more electronics.
Yes. I mean, they have
mic
other
will be
things
able
done,
to
but
pick up.
electronic signatures was really delayed. I don't know why it took so long.
That's all you got?
I think so. Let's see. I'll speak loud.
Just hold that a little closer to the table. I mean, when you need it.
Yeah.
We'll get started in like 2 minutes, everybody, okay? Randall, you good? Randall, you good?
You got the
We're
thumbs
good?
up. Yeah.
All right, good evening. It is Tuesday, February 28th, 2023. I would like to call this school committee business meeting to order. Mrs. Kennedy, can you take the roll, please?
Mayor Reed,
I'm here.
Ms. Hall,
Here.
Ms. Walker,
Present.
Mr. Menon,
Here.
Mr. Cole is absent, Mr. Callahan,
Here.
and Ms. Higgins is absent.
Okay, can we rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Vice Chair Hall.
Okay, do we have anyone here for public comment this evening? All right, so seeing none, we'll move on to student and staff recognitions.
All right. I'm going to try to present from the podium, so hopefully Sarah doesn't yell at me behind.
You got a little more room here.
Is there a little
I think there is.
There you go. Awesome.
too much?
All right, it's, once again, every school committee meeting, we get to recognize some extraordinary students, extraordinary staff to really kick off our meeting in a positive way. And tonight's no different than all the other nights. So we're here to recognize some incredible 8th grade students. At this time, I'd like to call up our middle school principal, Mr. Nick Marcos. He looked too comfortable in the back, so I'm going to make him move up. What I'd like to do is call up the students we're going to recognize, and then I can read kind of what they're being recognized for in a moment. So at this time, we'll be recognizing Tommy Rich. Come on up, Tom. Maxwell Macarone, come on up. Sophia Butler and Rocco Riccardi. Come on up. So these following students are being recognized, these 4th grade students are being recognized for their academic excellence in math. They've begun taking a pilot online of geometry course in district partnership with Edgenuity, in addition to the math courses they're taking during the school day. These students have shown consistency, hard work, and responsibility to have this opportunity, and we look forward to their continued success. Thank you. Yeah, well, you know. There you go. And for our parents that are here and relatives, feel free to come on up. We'll take some pictures.
Just want to like move down there. maybe
Yep,
a
I'll
little
move down there. From there. Alright, Mr. Marcos, get in there. Yeah, you get it. You get the words. Yeah. Yeah, come on in. Say math. There you go. All right. Awesome. Thank you. Congratulations. Great job. Hey. Nice job. Nice job. Thank you, Mr. Marcos. All right. And next, we're going to be recognizing some extraordinary staff members. At this time, we'd like to recognize Miss Jen Groskin. And Miss Groskin is being recognized tonight for her leadership, innovation, and continued support of student achievement. Miss Groskin is an 8th grade social studies teacher and has worked in the district for 17 years. Jen continues to lead from the front. As a curriculum leader, she supported the district's vision of a portrait of a graduate, preparing our students for a college or career path. Most recently, Ms. Groskin has organized a highly successful career speaker series throughout the month of January, bringing in local community members from various professional backgrounds for our students to explore. The NOC has hosted professionals from the medical field, technology field, law enforcement, software, education, and public service fields. And at this time, we'd like to thank her for her efforts of always going above and beyond the classroom. Thank you, Ms. Groskin. You get in the middle of two Seans.
Sean sandwich. You want to get in the case too? Yeah.
All right, the little Groskins, get up here.
What's up, bud?
Oh, pretty much as tall as me. Almost as tall.
Add that to your collection. I'm sure you have the whole display at home.
All right, our next faculty member that we're going to be recognizing is Miss Joan Maida. She's a dedicated, compassionate, caring, and creative professional, currently supporting some of our most intensive needs students within the Individual Development Center, which is known as our IDC program. She is a well-respected and admired fixture within Newburyport Public Schools for over 14 years. Ranging from upper elementary grades through postgraduate, each and every student has the opportunity to work with Ms. Maida, exceeds expectation in areas of growth and development. Because of her drive, her consistent focus on each student she works with, students really, truly enjoy and feel safe within the school and love spending time with her. Joan is truly the definition of an exceptional educator, friend, and colleague. So congratulations, Miss Maida. As we always say, the requirement, you gotta hang this on the fridge for a month. We'll check.
Superintendent, should we take a break?
That'd be great.
We'll now take a brief recess.
Thank you.
All right.
Actually, wasn't as bad as last year, but it wasn't great.
The weather wasn't, yeah.
I mean, it's Florida.
That's funny.
We got down to Salisbury Center and the waves are crashing right now, like big time waves. And the fire department said, we are not going to let you guys go into the ocean here. So we had to go to the reservation where it was nice and calm.
That's great.
Yeah. I'm really glad that we recognized Jen.
Should we just ask Brett to come up to that mic? Is that?
Yeah, I would say, I would have him go up there.
Yeah.
Who, Steve?
No.
When Brett comes up.
Brett.
Oh, yeah. Let's have him go right there.
Just next. Well, that's not next. We have the consent agenda. Wait, it's a couple more things.
A couple minutes.
So should I just invite him up to introduce himself and give people a chance to ask questions?
Yeah.
And we
You
have
could just,
motion.
you have a motion to reappoint, Mr. Murphy as.
And then discussion, and I guess maybe the discussion is the time you ask him the question. You can do it any way you want. Well, once somebody makes a motion, there's discussion, and that's what we're.
Right, I just wanted to give him a chance.
Yeah.
Maybe introduce himself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'll do that first.
What's that? Let him come up.
Yeah, let him come up and
I
introduce
would let him come up
himself.
and talk and then make a motion and then we can ask them questions if you want.
Sounds good. Okay. Of course, people are chatting back there, but we're all ready.
Great.
You guys need a gavel. Get a gavel.
Was I happy? I'm always happy. I didn't like the quarter of five wake up, but I said I didn't like the quarter of five wake up, but
It looks like people are,
Yeah, but Hamilton won.
I'm gonna be sending a Connect Ed on the day before the last day of school to remind everyone that we came to school.
no, hey.
like, you want some recognition for
No,
that?
I got more calls today, like just thanking you, or thanking us for not pulling
It
the
was
trigger.
totally the
It was
right
good.
call. It was the right call, for sure.
I don't know what, like, everyone below us was thinking, like, I mean, Beverly and all those schools called so early yesterday.
3 o'clock, 4 o'clock.
Did they? I wasn't even paying attention.
Everything, Beverly, PBD, all the way down.
Okay, I think we're ready to continue. Mr. Callahan, do we have some warrants this evening?
We do. There are 2 warrants. Move the following named bills to the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate $710,980.88 to be approved and forwarded to the city treasurer for payment. There are no conflicts.
Just use the microphone as Sarah's frantically calling now.
You
weren't-
You want me to read that again? everybody?
Sure.
Okay.
That'd be great.
But I don't know what I'm saying. I have to read this whole thing. There are 2 warrants. I move that the following named bills to the Newburyport Public Schools amounting in the aggregate $710,980.88 be approved and forwarded to the city treasurer for payment. There are no conflicts.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, now it's time for our student representative report.
Okay, so starting up in Bresnahan news, right before break, students at the Bresnahan shared kindness by coloring fancy hearts to share at the Newburyport Senior Center. The kindergarten students delivered some hearts in person, and many hearts will be delivered all week to the recipients of Meals on Wheels. Mr. Nickerson's class worked together to complete 100 acts of kindness. And second graders wrote kindness poems and worked with their younger reading buddies to make cards, and third grade students created a hall of kindness to promote culture of fun and inclusivity. Earlier in the year, Bresnahan teachers participated in professional development to expand their knowledge of the writing component of MyView, a literacy curriculum. If you were to walk into a Bresnahan classroom during the literacy block, you would see small groups working with teachers, peers, and independently. And on Friday, March 10th, there will be a PTO Cultural Enrichment Assembly. Storyteller Rona Leventhal will be visiting the school for an assembly, and we are really grateful to the PTO for this opportunity. In high school news, from Colleen Fallon, who is a biology and biotechnology teacher, using new cell-free technology to assemble proteins, students in AP Biology created the green fluorescent protein that is naturally made by jellyfish. Students used loose amino acids and nucleotides along with jellyfish DNA and associated enzymes to create this protein in a micro test tube. Usually this can be accomplished in the lab using genetically modified non-toxic strains of E. coli. Now scientists and students can use freeze-dried cellular components, ribosomes from bacteria, to accomplish the process of using DNA to make a protein. All of the materials were provided by a Boston.
Along with friends from Governor's Academy, will be performing music at the Massachusetts Music Educators Association Conference on Thursday. Cedar Schumacher attends NHS, his brother Bay attends NOC, where both are involved in a band and theater programs, and Gabe Nelson attends Governors. The boys will perform as a rock band representing all Newburyport schools. We are super proud of them and happy to support them in this amazing opportunity. And then an update from the College and Career Center. The Massachusetts Educational Finance Authority will provide the following information and planning nights. On March 1st at 6 p.m., there's a junior college planning night. On April 12th at 6 p.m., there's a spring financial aid info night. And on April 4th, there's an internship career fair during Clipper Block. Students will network with representatives from many career areas. This is an opportunity for students to ask questions in those in careers of students' interest, as well as learn about internship opportunities for next school year. And then athletics update. Congratulations to the boys track team on winning another Cal title. Earlier this season, Ian Hines broke the school record for the 55-meter hurdles, and last week he broke the record he set earlier. Blake Parker recently broke the school record in the 600. Annabelle Murray, Violet Moore, Blake Parker, and Haley LaRosa set a school record for the 4x800 and also have qualified for nationals. Devin Stroop, Reese Bromby, Morgan Feltz, and Annie Shea broke the school record in the 4x400. Ian Hines, Wilco Viva, Ryan Miles, and Brian Mendez Hevelin broke the school record in the 4x50 and the 4x200. Definitely an impressive group of runners. Congratulations to all of the students and their accomplishments. And then upcoming state tournament pairings, boys hockey round of 32 versus Melrose, boys basketball preliminary round versus Grafton, girls basketball round versus TBD, girls hockey round versus Long Meadow March, and good luck to all.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Great. Okay, next up is the reappointment of our Newburyport representative to the Whittier School Committee. Mr. Brett Murphy, if you want to step right up here. Introduce yourself.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Brett Murphy. I'm the Newburyport representative to the Whittier Regional School Committee. And I'm here seeking my reappointment for the next 3 years.
Excellent. Would anyone like to make that motion?
I move that in accordance with the Whittier School Policy BBAA, I move that we reappoint Brett Murphy to the Whittier School Committee for a 3-year term beginning March 31st, 2023.
Second.
Discussion.
Great.
I appreciate that you continue to want to serve. I
Yeah.
think it's important to have consistency, and it's definitely an important role to play.
Yeah, I really enjoy it, and I feel honored doing it.
So I'll say there's a lot going on at Whittier.
There's a
right?
very lot
So
going
we're just
on.
kind of talking about this in the break, and there was an article in the paper today about the building plan that the building committee just came out with, pretty much endorsing a new building opposed to rehabbing the old building. So we were just up there. They invited all the communities up there for kind of a lunch gathering with Congressman Moulton and Congressman Trahan recently. You know, took them on a tour. We had a nice lunch and kind of talked about the plan going forward. So, I mean, Superintendent Lynch has got our work cut out for as far as working with the communities. And it's pretty much going to be a year kind of process moving, talking this out.
Oh, it's,
I think it might be even over a year.
It's over
that they'll be
a year, yeah.
talking this through. So it'll be kind of like a caravan through all the committees. But Whittier just does an amazing job. I mean, I'm impressed every time I go there. The project itself is very daunting. We have just 40 kids, I think, from Newburyport that goes to Whittier right now.
there's actually 28 right now.
28 right now, okay, so it's even a lot less, so. So I'm hoping that our federal delegation can be very helpful in finding funds for this type of project, because I do think it's going to be tough for communities that, especially that only send a handful of kids there.
Yeah, no, it is. We know that, and
Yeah.
we're trying all the time, inviting people to the school to show them what we have.
Sure, yeah.
The school is just outdated, unfortunately, and with all the requirements, the city of Haverhill will not give us any more building permits to do any more work to the
Right.
building because we don't have a sprinkler system. So our hands are kind of tied.
Yeah, no, it's desperate need of an upgrade, so, and I think VOTEC is just as important now, or even more so than it ever has been. It's just such a great pathway for kids
And we've
to
been-
learn a trade. I think 86% of kids graduate Whittier with a job already in place, which
Oh,
is pretty
yeah,
awesome.
and going to college, I think it's somewhere between 65 and 70% as well.
That's great.
And we've been applying for this since 2016.
Right, we know a little bit about that. Great, well, thank you. Thanks again for
Okay.
stepping up to serve.
All right, any more questions?
Just a comment. Brett has done really wonderful work at Whittier, but he has always been a strong advocate for Newburyport kids and Newburyport at the table. So I just appreciate the work you've done, and
Okay.
I'll make the motion. I already made
We
the, I
made
made the motion, so
Were there
yeah.
any other questions? Right, well, thank you for stepping up again. All in favor? Aye.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brett. Good to see you.
Okay, we're up to the capital improvement plan overview. Do you want,
Yes.
where do you want to do that from?
I think Mr. Burcombe can come right up here in the hot seat. But at our last school committee meeting, we gave I think an in-depth overview of the capital improvement plans, the priority list. Mr. Burcombe can kind of talk through, but it's really this list here that you would all be supporting, after the presentation. But you have the full detailed plan within the packet. So.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Yeah, Sean said we went through this in some pretty good depth last time, so I'll just kind of briefly go through each of these projects and then answer any questions that you have afterwards. Top one is the replacement of the controller for the elevator here at the high school. That's basically been mandated to us by the state because it did not pass an inspection that they were kind of impressing upon all of the elevators across the state. And because of the age of the controller here, it couldn't be fixed to meet that standard, so we've got to replace the whole controller. So that's $69,000. The next two are the roofs that we talked about, the high school roof, both the Building A, which is the original part of the building, and Building B roofs are in need of replacement. Building A a little more critically than Building B. And the middle school gym and auditorium roofs. The FY24, what I'm showing there are the engineering and the project management costs to kind of get the planning started for the replacement of the Building A roof, and then which would then presumably occur in FY25. And then likewise, FY26 is the design and engineering for Building B, followed by the construction. And middle school, similarly, the FY25 would be the design and project management costs, followed the following year by the construction or the replacement of the roof. Next one down, pickup truck to replace our 13-year-old maintenance van. That's really on its last legs at this point, but we want to replace it with a pickup truck that we can somewhere down the line add a plow to, as one of our other pickup trucks ages out of service as a plow truck. So that's why we're replacing a van with a pickup truck with a utility body on it. Next down is high school security upgrades. We are currently in the middle of phase one of that, which is replacing the existing cameras throughout the building. The figure that you see there is for phase two, which would add cameras in the areas of the building where they do not currently exist. And then future years, those numbers would be refined more as we determine where we're going to go next, probably replacing the cameras in the other buildings and then proceeding on to access control systems and burglar alarm systems. Next down is the high school science area space use study. This I added on since the last meeting. We talked about this, hiring an architect to take a look at the science area, see how we're using it currently, and what we can do to improve upon that, either through minor renovations or equipment upgrades or scheduling or any number of ways that we can use that area more efficiently, since we haven't had too much luck, or we haven't had any luck getting into the MSBA program for the Science Wing addition that we had been talking about for a number of years. That's followed by the control upgrades for the high school and middle school. That project is currently out to bid. We're expecting bids back on that mid-March and hope to have that completed by the summer. Following that is engineering services. I had that initially as high school engineering services, but after we talked last time I was here, I took the high school designation off that just to sort of indicate that we could use it, across the district as the needs arose. But initially, that would be mainly at the high school to take a look at some water infiltration issues that we have, some masonry issues, and our aging mechanical equipment that's all 20, 22 years old at this point. Library carpet replacement here. I believe there's a rip seam right here behind me. That would be to replace this kind of sheet carpeting with carpet tiles, which I think would hold up much better in this environment and be a little bit easier to care for and repair if the need arose for that. Knockmole playground repaving, that I don't even know how old the asphalt is on that playground, but it's pretty severely cracked. We have a lot of problems with weeds growing up through that every year, creating trip hazards, and it's just time to repave that. Knockmole kitchen equipment replacement. I'm told that we might be able to do some of that with some of our in-house funds, but I'm still leaving it on the capital improvement plan while we work out the plan for what we're going to do there. I've been working with the Director of Food Services to put together a prioritized list of the equipment in the kitchens so that we can come up with a comprehensive plan to put any funding that we get for that in the right places. High school energy reduction projects, those will be ongoing for a while still. We still have quite a few lights that we can convert to LEDs. This next one in FY24 is focusing on the second and third floor of Building B, classrooms and hallway lighting. And then future will take care of some of the other lighting that hasn't been done yet. We're actually also looking at potentially replacing or enhancing our boilers now that they're in the 20-plus year old range, and we can get something more efficient to heat the building with. The, where are we? Integrated Arts and College and Career Center studies are ongoing, and I've got the TBDs in the following years after those, because we expect that those studies are going to produce some projects that are going to make improvements in those areas. Knockmole and sidewalk repaving, not as critical as a lot of this other stuff, so I've pushed that out to FY26 and FY27 just to keep it in our minds. FY26 would be the sidewalk coming in from Johnson Street, and FY27 would be for the remaining piece of the fire road coming along behind the skate park that we haven't paved recently. And auditorium plaster repairs is just something that needs to be done once the roofs have been replaced, and we're sure that that's watertight in there. So you see the totals for each of those fiscal years along there, and down below that we have FY24 non-CIP funding items, which include the elevator controls. Not marked on there. I gotta try to figure this out. Elevator controls, we have funding for right now because we've got to get that started. We would still like the city to consider reimbursing us for those costs through the capital improvement plan. The high school and knockmole and control upgrades, we've got the funding for that. The energy reduction projects are funded through green community grants and utility rebates and on-bill repayment program. And the integrated arts area and college and career center have been funded through a combination of an NEF grant and our budget. So the total of those 5 projects is, that we funded through other means, is about $376,000. And those are, like I said, all in progress at this point, at some stage. So that's kind of the quick nutshell view of it all. I'll answer any questions.
Ms. Walker?
Yeah, thank you. That was really helpful, and the project sheets are also helpful. It definitely shows how you're distributing the funding between different funding sources, including outside sources, so that's really helpful. I guess in looking at this list, is it listed in order of priority, or is it more of just a kind of randomized?
It is more or less in order of priority.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, top to bottom, but also, left to right is, the more prioritized ones are obviously in FY '24.
Right. Yeah, and then I guess maybe when this gets presented to council, it might be helpful to flag the ones on this list that aren't part of the city request for funding, I think you're fully funding the Knock-Mullen control upgrades with outside funding, right?
Correct.
So
Yeah.
maybe just noting that they're.
And I think the detail sheets
They do,
show that
yeah,
to some
yeah,
extent.
they do.
Yeah.
Overall, I think I appreciate the way it's been presented, and I don't have any objections to the order of priorities or the projects you've selected to bring forward.
Thank you.
A question. So the Healy Driscoll administration had a lot of updates the other day as far as like things that they're able to fund. Has there been any movement on the MSBA roof program that currently is on hold, or nothing yet?
I have not heard anything about that.
Okay. I can check on that too,
At this point, no.
Any other questions, comments? I do think it would be maybe helpful to highlight in a different color those items that are funded from other sources, just so that that's front of mind as they're looking through it.
Yeah.
It's great to see that total
Yeah,
at
we
the
can certainly do that, absolutely.
Anyone ready to make that motion then?
I move that we support the priority list for the district capital improvement plan to be brought before the city council for their considerations.
A second?
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Next up is the school choice and Chapter 78 overview.
All right.
You gonna do that right from here?
I have to
Hop
stand
right
for
up.
some reason. I have that.
That works.
Move around a little bit. Yeah, so as we go into every budget season the past 5 years, there's been a lot of questions on school choice. And I think we've answered them throughout every budget season, but this year we felt like really giving a true overview from start to finish of school choice, how it's utilized, to really answer a lot of questions. The other piece too is I passed out a FAQ on school choice for school committee. Ms. Furlong is going to also post that on the website, so we're really going to have a lot of detail for the general public and other city officials to try to fully understand the essence of school choice. The other piece, before I get started, I do want to thank Jay Sullivan from DESA. He's the Associate Commissioner of School Finance, and Rob O'Donnell is the Director of School Finance, who collaborated with us before the break. So these two individuals are the top officials for the DESE, and really the people who create and enforce the regulations of all school finance. So they were very helpful as we created this presentation. So the background of school choice really happened during ed reform in 1993, and it's really to allow families choice of other districts that they don't live in, almost similar to like a voucher program that you hear at the national level. So school choice provided Massachusetts families the opportunities to attend schools outside of the district that they lived in. So it was established, as I said, during ed reform, which in 1993. So districts who open choice seats are called the receiving districts, and then districts who have students choicing out or into other districts are called the sending districts. So we're receiving district process. So it begins with district reports, enrollment information, and that's really looking at the capacity of the seats to be offered, projected resident enrollment, current choice enrollment, and then number of seats available to non-residents. And we've been doing this since I've been here every year, working with the principals to see what seats would be available for each grade. The second aspect, once we identify the seats, we come forward to school committee. We'll recommend the seats to the school committee that we feel comfortable that we can support students from outside the district, and then school committee votes on those seats, and then we end up, advertising those seats. So district enrolls the students. Choice openings are publicized, which is part of the legal requirement, usually in the daily news and on our website. Applications are accepted. The slots are filled before July 1st using a lottery system. Then the parents and guardians are notified, sending districts are notified, and the student is enrolled. As part of the choice program, all districts that do have choice also have the opportunity to undertake a district who wants to withdraw. So there's a process for that. But students that are already in the system are grandfathered in until, obviously, they graduate. So a district that decides not to continue with choice, those students would remain in the system. So we want to just kind of give an overview of some of the local districts that we're familiar with that offer choice. So receiving districts are right on the left. You can see a lot of the North Shore school districts, from Amesbury all the way down to Salem, Rockport, Manchester, Essex. And throughout the state, there's 313 sending districts, and there's 188 receiving districts. The other two areas are some of the virtual schools that have been established. So the Commonwealth, the virtual school, is also a school choice, and then the Tech is the Connections Academy virtual school. So two schools opened up in Massachusetts that are for virtual learning are also part of these choice programs. Working with Mr. Sullivan, Mr. O'Donnell, and Phil Littlehale, and we all districts that are familiar with choice. One area that has never changed since ed reform in 1993 is that last piece, that you can't charge more than $5,000. So talking with some of the DSE officials, this would be one area for state and local officials to address, obviously with the people higher up, since that law has come into effect. So it has been set at $5,000. So discussions moving forward with local and state officials would be to take a look at that number. Obviously, cost of living has changed since 1993. Not by some of the clothes I wear, but, it has changed. So, tuition and special classifications. So we try to break this down to make it really simple. So the educational classification, tuition, and reimbursement. So student A is, let's say, a student coming in from another district. There's no special classification, so the tuition is $5,000 for that student, and then the reimbursement is none. Student B, let's say, we can even say from that same district, is classification is low income or English learner. It's $5,000 tuition, and then there's a bump in funding for that student, and the state aid funds are adjusted to reflect those individual students. Student C, another classification of school choice is special education. So tuition is the $5,000, reimbursement of service expense by the sending district. So there's a formula calculated, so that student will receive $5,000 coming in, and because of the services that are being required, you'd get a little more bump in funding. Another question we received, I think over the past couple meetings, is a student out-of-district student comes in, or a choice student comes in, it needs out-of-district services. So the tuition is none, but there's full reimbursement for the tuition and transportation by that sending district. So those are the real 4 classifications under school choice. On our presentation, and this will also be up on the website, there are different links that link people right to the DESI requirements and all of the different regulations. So if people want to dig a little bit deeper to have that amount, they can look at that. So every month, down the bottom here, so these amounts are determined at the cost calculator simulated to the one used for circuit breaker. So as we're all familiar with special education and circuit breaker reimbursement, the state and state aid calculates our students, the classifications, and then the certain reimbursements that we get. So school choice in state aid, and down the bottom you can see the DESE advisory on the inner district school choice. So that's a live link. So when that's up on the website, people will be able to click on that, and it will bring them to all of that information through the state. But we're kind of going to give you a snapshot of kind of what that looks like. So districts submit the reports to the DESE, sending and receiving students, including the calculations for special education services. So as you know, with all various needs of students and special educations and students with learning disabilities, the services are a lot different. So it's not just one formula that covers everything. It's a detailed report that's submitted to the state. Using that data, the districts and the state treasurer increase the receiving district's local aid or school choice revenue per student, and then the state treasurer deducts school choice tuition expenses from the sending district. So it kind of works both ways. And once again, a lot more detail is on that link for people to explore a lot more further. The other piece here is Chapter 70 in aid background. So there are 3 formulas that go into this. You have your foundational budget, as we all know. You have your target local contribution share, as we all know. And then the rest, the remainder, is funded by Chapter 70 aid. So when you look at some of the criteria there, the target contribution share is property values, income, municipal revenue, growth factors, etc. So Chapter 70 payments are made monthly as part of the local aid. And then here is the aspect of school choice and the benefits of school choice. So as we all know, charter schools throughout the Commonwealth also receive Chapter 70. So for example, that's about 2.1 an hour for our students. We have 127 students going to the charter school. So that per pupil expenditure follows that child. So our school choice is revenue that comes in from, number 1, that's why we have some seats available. Because to fill those seats where the Newburyport students are going to the charter school, and number 2, we're generating some revenue to make up that gap. So accounting and expenditure, so this is another live link that the public will be able to click on, or anyone else can click on to get more information under this slide. But here's kind of a quick overview. So accounting. So as we all know, the municipal or district treasurer should transfer the amount of received school choice funds tuition revenue each month into the school choice revolving account. So that's the accounting of school choice. That's why it's a revolving account, separate from the operational budget. The really important piece here is for all school choice funds and all school choice requirements, the oversight remains solely within the school committee. The school committee are the ones that, set the guidelines, are the ones that allow, how many choice students you're going to have. And then obviously, school committee with the revolving accounts have oversight over the school choice funds. So expenditures, and this was very helpful as we were working with Mr. Sullivan and Mr. O'Donnell. Holistically, we've been spending our school choice really on staff and salaries because that's the easiest for expenditures utilizing school choice funds. But as you see, allowable expenditures include for staff, materials, equipment, services that directly enhance the quality of the district's educational programs and benefit students who currently attend the district schools. So there's a lot of leeway regarding school choice funds and what they could be spent on. We've utilized that towards salaries to defray the cost of the city's contribution and appropriations, for that area, and that's the easiest one. And once again, as I said, there's a live link up top once this gets posted on our website. So we also, Mr. Littlehale, and before Mr. Littlehale, Ms. Lysick really went over the years of school choice trends. So what we did for this slide is kind of show the receiving students that we have in the district is on the left, and the sending students is on the right. So as you can see, throughout every year, we've gained students, but at the same time, we've also had students choicing out. And from looking at our research, a lot of our students are choicing out. More than half of that 26 are at the elementary level, and following that traditional model in a neighboring district where it's a K-6 elementary school. What we see is some of those students that will then come back to Newburyport. So that's why we have in our enrollment fluctuation. So people are taking advantage of more of a traditional educational elementary model, and then coming back to the district in the middle schools years. So the funding trends, so you can see receiving and sending. So these are the funds that we've received under school choice, and then in the red are the funds that go out that we're supporting our students leaving Newburyport. And I think the other piece that we really want to be conscious of is when you look at the years, and then you can just see up top here, this was the COVID years. So for 2 years, those choice students, that funding was coming into the district, but the majority of our expenditures was light because we were remote. We didn't have students in school. So that fund balance built up over those 2 years. And a lot of the discussions from last year to this year was to spend those funds down. And it's a lot easier when you're back in school full time, 5 days a week. And I think we've done, a nice job of bringing that fund balance down. And I think the goal for the school committee and the goal for central office was a fund balance between a 300 and a 500,000 fund balance. So we're getting there on that, which is important. The other piece is that we're working on is, and it's separate from choice, but some of the funding has gone into choice, is tuition in. So we have some exchange students through the Educations program, and then some of the work we've been doing with building our programs, our therapeutic program, and then also our transitional program. We have a pilot where we're bringing a student from another district into our program. It's not under choice, but it's under special ed. And so similar to our students going out of district placement, we're looking to fill some of those 2 programs with out-of-district placement students. So for example, if a district was paying $80,000 for a similar program, for a therapeutic program in out-of-district placement, we have the same program in Newburyport, and those students will be coming in for $50,000 under the special ed guidelines. So that's something we're excited about, and that's the work that we've done about building our special ed programs, not only to support our students and families here, but also have the opportunity to maybe bring some students in from other districts. So Mr. Littlehale is kind of pulling some of that funding out of there, and we'll have a line item of tuition that will make it a lot clearer. So in closing, as we were getting a lot of, when we put this presentation out, we received a lot of questions regarding school choice. So we have an FAQ that I gave a hard copy tonight to the school committee, but we're also going to post that on our website. But the majority of the questions around school choice, we feel people will be able to look at the FAQ and then get their information. So one of the questions that we received by some members of our teaching staff and school staff, and also some inquiries for public employees: can a school district establish a preference for children of school district or other municipal employees when admitting students through school choice? And with the law and working with Jay Sullivan and O'Donnell, was a great collaboration. No, the answer is no. You can't have preference for admission of any bias other than siblings is inconsistent with the random selection requirement in the statute. So outside of school choice, however, a school district may admit children of a school district and multiple employees under GL 7612 requirement, but it cannot be under school choice.
Okay, that was a question I was going to ask.
So you can't set preference for
I know, we can't
public
set
employees,
preference, yeah.
right, correct.
Do you know what that means, though? Like that
Can
last
I,
part?
yeah, can I ask a follow-up question? to
Yeah.
that? So I think to the mayor's point, is part of this distinction that we wouldn't necessarily get reimbursed through the school choice? We
Yeah,
wouldn't
I
get
think
reimbursed for
under
those
that
students?
law is people could tuition in
Yeah.
and pay tuition, but not under the school choice.
It wouldn't be set at that 5,000 cap?
Correct, it would be set at
And typically,
16,000.
my understanding is that other school districts that do this, it's a discussion as part of the union contracts. Is that your impression too, that this?
On school choice?
If there was a preference given for municipal employees or?
From talking, before I got here, I guess 3 contracts ago, there was a discussion around this. But as we dug a little bit deeper, we're recognizing that you probably couldn't allow employees to have preference of school choice over the general public under that.
Right, I'm just saying if there was, this is separate, the second part that says outside of
Correct.
school choice.
Yep.
If the school district were to consider that option, the appropriate mechanism would be through the contracts discussion, correct?
I think if we wanted to, I mean, I'm not ready to answer that like fully.
Okay,
but
that's
if
fine.
if that's
Superintendent, if you
something-
don't feel comfortable answering, we can-
Yeah,
that
but
could be
I think if
future
it's something
conversation.
that I could come back with
That's fine, yeah.
answers and working, with the state and legal to make sure we know what we're
Yeah.
discussing.
Okay, thank you.
So yeah, so I was going to talk about this tonight. So that group of parents that have been emailing all of us came to see me on Friday, and I suggested that they email everybody. So that last part is interesting. I guess my question would be, do we decide what we would set the tuition at for that?
I think what I'll do, I mean, I think what we can do is kind of go back and dig a little bit deeper into that second piece.
Yeah, that would be great.
It wouldn't fit underneath that criteria. of
Right,
school
right.
choice.
And that makes complete sense.
So it might be a tuition in and what
Right,
that cost is
right.
going to
So
be.
so Superintendent and I met and talked about this yesterday, but, my thought was, it's after talking to those parents that came to see me who work for the city, talking about the union piece, I'd like to see it, if we do go this route, or at least get some more information about it, see what that would look like citywide, not just for teachers. I think it's so hard to retain employees right now, not only at the school level, but at the city level. And if there was something that we could do to make it an incentive for good people to come to Newburyport to work and then go to our schools, I think that would be great.
Historically, when we've accepted students outside of choice, the tuition, we've used the $5,000 as a benchmark, and that's the ceiling for what we ask for. And we had to go to court to get that from one parent after they signed the contract. So we do have some experience way back of doing that. And again, the benchmark was the 5,000.
Yeah, I think it would be something that we just have to dig a little bit deeper, because right now for our exchange students, they're paying the per pupil costs. So that's something that we'd want to consider too.
And just one more thing on that with the one, because some of these parents had done choice last year because seats opened up and they were able to get their children in, and a lot of them were just looking for a little bit of clarity around their siblings getting preference.
Yeah, so
there is preference.
Right.
There is preference.
So there is. It isn't incredibly written well though, too. Right. So I think we have to do a good job communicating that to people, especially if it's around kindergarten, which doesn't mention that in there, but we typically don't take kids on choice for kindergarten. So, for people that might want to get their sibling in, they're going to have to wait until first grade.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
And the reason why with kindergarten, because, we looked at the year. So right now, our kindergarten enrollment, it could be like 90 to 100 students. So then you're saying, oh, well, we have, 20 slots to fill or 15 slots to fill. But when we looked over the years, the last 5 years, that 90 to 100 students has turned into 30 to 40 students coming back, Newburyport residents that were just satisfied with like probably a private preschool to a kindergarten, and then first grade they come back. So that's why I think you don't want to I think you'd have to really take a harder look at kindergarten, because you don't know as people are registering for first grade. There's a lot of Newburyport residents that come back into the system.
Right. Thank you for that clarification, because I think that was the concern I had, was that kindergarten is much less difficult, much harder to estimate.
Correct.
Availability, and that if we were to preference siblings,
right, you would
automatically
you'd run out of room.
Yeah.
So that's why we typically have not opened up school choice for kindergarten. And remember, once they're accepted on school choice, they obviously a part of our community, and they stay with us until graduation, if they choose to. So that's kind of I'm hoping I answered a lot of questions on how school choice works and really the benefits of school choice. So we're generating revenue by having open seats. So we're not bringing a lot of kids in and creating more teacher positions. These are seats that are already available, and we're replacing some of those seats that we've lost, throughout the process. So, and so every year you're looking at a $300,000 to $400,000 revenue that's coming in that helps to offset the appropriations from the city, as we develop our budget. But as I said, for the people that are watching, on this PowerPoint, you'll be able to link directly right to the state to get, more detail, more information. So we feel that this will help us throughout the budget process, that we can reference the presentation and send people to the website to get more information if they have questions around school choice. The other piece we also asked that I thought was important with Jay Sullivan and O'Donnell regarding school choice in other districts. Is there a precedent? Is there a recommendation? How much do they recommend on a fund balance carryover? And they really said it's really up to the school committee, that all districts are different. But also, cautionary tale for the districts that have school choice. If there is a cost, an unexpected cost, it's always good to have that if you need it. And as we all know, in my years, like some students need extra support and residential placement or things like that, and that's been helpful for us to have that cushion.
Just to reinforce that, so this is not, when the revenue comes in, it's not considered city revenue.
Correct, it's a revolving account.
It's a revolving account.
Correct, similar to all the other revolving accounts, correct.
Oh, just to piggyback on that, going forward though, like working with Phil, it would be great, especially to communicate to the council that, you know, maybe going forward, best practices is we're going to try to keep this fund at this for A, B, and C. I mean,
correct, and I think that's from the direction from school committee, I think over the last couple of years of, you know, and then we saw that the high fund balance was directly correlated to COVID. We didn't have kids in school, so we were collecting that funds but not spending it because we didn't have anyone in school. So over the past couple of years, that extra funding, we've been spending it down, and as we develop our budget this year, you'll see how school choice is assisting with the city appropriation. But yes, so that's school committee oversees that 100%. So there you go. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think just to clarify, I'm glad you ended with that explanation of the fund balance, which I think you indicated our goal now is to keep it between 300 and 500,000. I remember we had conversations about this last time. I completely support keeping a fund balance, and I think it's good practice across the board, particularly municipal funds, but any public funds. You know, we have seen demonstrated use of those funds. I think when you are talking about this during the budget process, it would be helpful to have examples of how we've been able to dip into those funds for totally unanticipated expenses. And I think it's just general best practice. So I appreciate that you ended on that. And I will continue to support that. So thank you. And then I guess just to talk about the discussion around potential outside, allowing municipal employees or public employees. I would love to have that discussion at some point in the future too, but I think it merits a real deep dive into the overall pros and cons and maybe a work session or something like that. But I would like to visit that, Mayor. I think it's a good discussion to have.
Yeah, and in the meantime, my team and I can gather information, and assist with that discussion regarding if other districts are utilizing, other employees through a tuition base than what they charge and that type of stuff. 100%.
just on that too, I started to research this, so I haven't been able to find any districts, but I think maybe between the two of us, maybe we'll run into somebody who's trying to do this. Like I said, I do think it was pretty common practice a number of years ago, and then I think through ed reform it went away. But I agree. I think it's a great discussion to have.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all.
All right. So up next, we have our first draft of the 2023-2024 school calendar, which is in your packet. And this is just a conversation today. Any thoughts, concerns about it? And then we'll be voting on it on Monday at our next meeting. So go ahead, Mr. Callahan.
Committee member Callahan's favorite subject.
Shocker.
He's waits all year for this. So. What's that?
Shut it off? Yeah.
Generally fine. Same complaints I've had for 5 years. Every early release day is not before a Monday holiday or vacation week, which annoys everybody who has kids. The one concern I have, and really I think that the four of us who were on the school committee at the time are partially to blame, because we bickered over weeks and weeks for calendars, and then finally came up with a policy that was, if Labor Day falls on a certain date, we start before. If it's after, it's after. And now there's a conflict with the contract, which is why teachers can't start until after Labor Day, which I can't believe it never came up from the four of us, so I'm disappointed in me for sure. But also, we just did a contract negotiation, and how that did not come up, I am amazed that that didn't happen. And frankly, I'm a little disappointed that the staff isn't willing to come in on the Wednesday and Thursday since they have the Friday, Monday off, I know we're not supposed to talk about staff, but this is the same conversation we've had forever and ever, and we finally fixed it, and now it's broken again. And this just throws the last day, predicted last day of a Monday. We worry about absentee rates. What is that day going to look like, especially for the older kids, right? And then with the Juneteenth holiday, we've only had potential for one snow day so far this winter, but you never know. We could be in school till the 25th, just because of that. I don't know if you can fix it or, you can convince John Gangemi to get his people together and have a vote on it instead of just being directed by building leaders or however it works, but I don't like that. I like the after Labor Day, of course, because that's our rule, but our rule has a problem. So either we fix it or we ask people to throw us a bone for this 1 year, because next year it's going to drop back to before Labor Day again, because the way the calendar falls. Mm-hmm. That is my rant for this year.
Counting on it.
Can you just explain what the problem is with the contract?
Sean,
this one?
Yeah, so the contract language, which was adopted in 2006, it says the work year will begin before Labor Day on certain dates or after Labor Day. So the work year, if it begins after Labor Day, that also includes the professional development days when the teacher's first day back, and then we have that professional development. So it's the work year that is, what participates when school starts. So we are starting after Labor Day, but teacher's first day back would be that Tuesday, then the professional development is the Wednesday, and then the kids are back on Thursday, Friday.
So what we had talked about is it would be nice if we could have the teachers do these 2 days, August 30th and 31st, give them the 4-day weekend, and that way students could begin on Tuesday instead of waiting until Thursday the 7th, which feels late to start.
Although, again, it matches our policy of when we'll start.
Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
the policy's right, but it's flawed because it doesn't match with the contract.
Well, it's just tricky because, the teachers would need to be okay with coming in before Labor Day to start their work.
Right.
And
So that's-
if we
Which
can't
they
get
do,
consensus-
though, if Labor Day falls on a certain date. They're doing that next year. And
Correct.
they've done
So
it
if-
multiple years in the past. I think it's just like,
It's the definition of-
picking at straws type of
Right.
thing.
It's the definition of the work year starts for the staff.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, this, I don't think this would meet the criteria to reopen the contract.
No, I don't want to.
Impact bargaining, it doesn't meet the criteria. But is there a possibility of a side agreement?
Yeah, like side letter.
Yeah, I think we've had conversations with our union membership, and I think, I think their interpretation is they would like to follow with the contract. Work year is the work year. There's been past precedent with that also, but I do believe as we move forward, so next year is our second year of the contract, then we start before Labor Day, and then we get to negotiate a whole new contract, which is something that we could talk about. Because there are other districts that do have the professional development, ahead of time. And sometimes that works out even better for teachers. But I think at this time, and credit the union too, for listening and thinking about that. But I think at this point, going into our second year of the contract, they just kind of want to follow that contract language at this time. So, but they're always open for a conversation and to listen and to see if there would be possible vote on it. But at this time, they just want to follow that, how the contract's written. So.
Can I just ask, is your concern just the last day of school, like where it's landing?
Well, that's part
on
of it. I
this?
mean, Juneteenth is only the last 2 years, right? That's come into the mix.
Correct.
From when school's over. So, and the way it fell, last year fell on the Monday, I guess, right? Or I guess
This year.
Tuesday.
This year it falls on a Monday.
Correct. And I think as we were having,
Oh, this is next year, yes.
Yeah.
Right, okay, right. So, the Monday, if it's a holiday on a Monday is always tricky, especially if it's the last week of school, right? So, we're still there because it's falling on a Tuesday next year.
Right.
Actually, right, on the Wednesday, I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean,
and
I know we're not voting, but, it's
correct.
just.
No, but I think we've had those, we've had those discussions, and I think, the staff understands, like, they're going to be getting out the third week of June. If we do have a few snow days, typically 3, then they're working towards that last week of June. So I think they understand that, but I just think they just want to follow the way the contract is right now. And when we negotiate the next one, they would, we do interest-based bargaining. They would probably be open to listening to the pros and cons of starting before. So it wasn't like an absolute no. We did have some conversation over the last couple weeks.
There was no vote.
There was no vote, but it was taken under consideration. But I think, it's something that, we put on the radar and we go into the next negotiation and, that would be an interest.
Yeah. I wonder if we were already on our 4th snow day this year, if that conversation would have been different, opposed to possibly having the longest summer we've probably ever had.
That's right. Well, I think we'll propose the professional development at the end of the contract.
Hey, Sean, were you going to say that?
I was going to say that.
Yeah, right. I think we've talked about that before. Can you, just for the people who are new, I guess, and because it'll be fun for you to explain it, the placement of early release days, which are staff, PD, and not them falling before holidays or vacation weeks, but I remember it's come up before the amount of actual learning days in a row. February stinks because of the break and it's a short month and all that stuff. September's not great either because, they get, there's the holiday week and there's an early release day immediately. So what is it that drives the decision to have the ER days when they fall? You know what I mean? Because there's nothing consistent. It's not every 6 weeks or what have you. And then the second part of that is, we've been talking about this forever, so I apologize. The early release day on election day, which used to be a full day off, which originated from voting being done in the schools, which hasn't been done in a while. So then we changed it to ER day, which is fine. Is that the the custodian union contract instead of March 17th off?
No, that was the union agreement was Good Friday.
Good Friday, okay.
Yeah, so that's the half a day.
Right. And if we could, the early release day, people can vote until 8 p.m., right? Why don't we just have that ER day on the Monday or the Thursday? Because it's the Veterans Day holiday. That's going to make that week short as it is.
Is that an actual early release for teachers, or is that PD?
Early release for teacher. Early release for students.
Yeah,
PD.
Right.
Yeah.
All of them are PD.
Yeah.
Right?
So
except for the blue ones are not, but the red ones are PD.
So a lot of and I think it fell on that. So there are other districts that have, because they utilize the school, so they have the full day off. This year, working with Lisa Marie, we did coordinate with other districts, PD on that day. So we worked with Triton, we also worked with Pentucket for that afternoon. So that was kind of the piece of that. When they had the full day off, the whole idea when I got into the system was you would collaborate with the other districts. So bringing Lisa Marie on board, we actually started to do that again, working with the Triton and Pentucket.
But did we only start to do that to justify a half day on a Tuesday? Because you could do that any one of the.
Yeah, I think what we try to do with the early release, and then, as you know, we've been and Merit, and this is our favorite discussion every year. I think we came with a healthy balance of placing those early release days, so it's hard to have them always on the same time because you're bumping into different holidays. So on election day, we've always had that early release, or it used to be a full day PD, and then we changed it to an early release. So we've kept it in there because it's doesn't bump into the Thanksgiving break and all of that. So the idea of the early release is to have one per month, so teachers can collaborate and find common planning time and professional development. So.
Thanks.
Yes.
That's a question. Have we ever surveyed the teachers about this, of their preference?
About when?
About like when early release days falls? I mean, I know some reach out to us and,
we haven't, but we've had like kind of informal discussions, and I think looking at, the Labor Day start and the work year piece, I think that it would be something when we negotiate our next contract to really look at early release days. Is it more beneficial to have, instead of the half days once a month, like some districts will do, a full day, like twice a year or something like that. So I think that might be something for us to take a look at. But we haven't put out to the teachers on, if they have a preference where those days would be or where they would fall. So, and that could be something we could do. I could work with Mr. Gangemi and the executive board, do a survey, and then maybe we can slide the before Labor Day question in there. They may not see it.
I was just curious.
No, I think that's a great idea, Mayor, to be honest, because I think it's important for all of us and to have teacher, input on those.
Don't put anything in there, though. Do you ski or do you like the beach? Because that was the argument forever. My family likes cold. My family likes hot, It's round and around forever. So, thanks.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? So we'll be voting on this at our Monday meeting. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have taking a look at the feedback from the policy subcommittee on the proposed subcommittee on teaching and learning. Ms. Walker, I'm noticing we have that listed, and then under subcommittee updates, we have finance, and then we have policies that are relevant to the subcommittee. I'm wondering, maybe we take things a little bit out of order.
Yeah, if the committee is comfortable doing that, I'm happy to do that.
Just because I think that those policy revisions are pertinent to the discussion. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
So maybe we'll just have you go ahead then, if you're ready, Mr. Callahan, with the FinCom update, and then we can dig into the proposal.
So I haven't got the minutes yet for that meeting, but last time we met, we talked about athletics, fundraising, and fees, and the whole bus discussion, whether or not to raise those fees and reducing the distance from 2 miles to 1.5 miles, which is policy, I've written down right here, Walker's and Ride policy, EEAA, so that's clear, we're done on that, right? Okay. So the money parts, I'm going to leave till the budget presentation meeting, if that's all right, because Phil will have all that anyway. But I did want to bring up a couple interesting things. This isn't the right order that I had, I'm sorry. Okay, so the interesting thing I thought about athletics,
I'm not looking.
Anybody care to guess what the most profitable, not that we do sports for profit, but what the most profitable sport in the district is?
I know.
Cross country.
I know because I was there, so I won't answer.
So, Bruce or Juliet, have a guess?
I was going to say cross-country because they're such great fundraisers.
That's true.
Well, we don't have fencing. I think I'll go with the mayor, cross-country.
Football is the surplus is large, $18,457, but a lot of that is because they have tons of money in gate fees. So, but the interesting thing I thought is the next most profitable is tennis. Just because everything else is a loss.
Partly because the costs are very low.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's just funny. You never really think about that, you know. And the participation's lower too, of course. But and then track is $999 in profit. But the one thing I thought is that from what I've heard anecdotally over the years is cross country has the most student athletes, which is not the case. It is again football. 9 more kids play football than run cross country. Little tidbits there for everybody. So if everybody wants to see the very detailed profit and loss and other figures from Phil Littlehale, this is in the agenda packet for our last meeting that's on the city website. Ms. Furlong, are we putting any of the school-related agendas on the school website, or we just leave them in the public meetings calendar on the city?
Like the school committee?
Right.
Yeah, they're on the
They're on the school district one as well? Okay, district one as well. That was that, and then the bus, yeah, the bus thing, it would only be if we change the mileage, which we're going to, it's only about 50 more students.
Potentially.
Potentially, right. But Phil did his more detailed,
Great.
you know, thing, which was great information. And that's really about it, because the rest of it is money-related, which will come up at the budget meeting, if that's all right with everybody.
Can I just ask a follow-up?
Sure.
So athletic fees certainly are critical to the discussion, but also other user fees? Is that part of the discussion, such as theater, you know, all the fees we charge for various activities outside of athletics?
I would guess that would be in the full budget. It was not in our.
It wasn't enough, but we can get that.
Yeah, that would be, I just don't want to just focus on athletic. I want to think about fees across the board.
Well, I think athletics was coming up too, because we're gonna come up to the next, discuss those tiers, you
Yep.
know, who pays what,
Right.
type of thing.
Great.
That's what I have.
So, yeah, I think one of my takeaways was that we will be able to absorb the cost of those additional riders going from the 2 miles to the 1.5. That is looking feasible.
Yep.
And since we're not changing or raising the bus fees, does that mean we don't need to vote? Or
Well, I think we need to vote regardless, right? I mean, I think, yeah, we haven't
vote
even.
to set the fees?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so, right, Superintendent? Would that be
Okay.
your?
Yeah, you would
view?
do that, and then also how you changing from 2 mile to the 1.5.
We already did
We
that.
already voted on that policy, so I'm just trying to figure out what we need to vote on, because I think we're going to try to get that on our next agenda. So we would vote to set
Sustain.
it at
Yep.
300, even though that's not a change.
Correct.
Okay, so we can talk about putting that on the agenda for Monday. Thank you.
I mean, other things that did come up was eliminating high school buses.
Right.
The elimination of bus transportation would not result in the elimination of the 5 buses, because they also serve the Mullen and the Knock. Phil's estimation is 2 buses could be eliminated, given the low number of Mullen and Knock riders on those particular buses. So there's a lot more going into it for next time, and the contract's coming up, right?
Yeah,
That was part of our reasoning,
yeah,
is that
yeah.
Salter
To wait.
contract will be ending, so.
Okay.
Right, to table that, and then we'll be able
Got
to create, you know, various proposals,
Okay.
you know, for the company that gets the bid.
So it would be not next year, but the following year that that would go into effect if we decided
Correct.
to change anything?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be a good opportunity to
Okay.
make some more significant changes. Bill,
That's
did
all.
we miss anything?
Oh, I thought Phil left.
No,
He's there.
It's hard for me to hear back there because I'm getting old. But, yeah, I think we're going over a lot of stuff, a lot of details. The bus contract, we're in year 2.
Oh, yeah.
So we did go through a lot of detail with the finance subcommittee, excruciatingly detailed stuff for those who like numbers. The thing about the bus contract, we are currently in year 2 of a 3-year contract. Next year will be the last year. I did express my concern with the bus contract that because Salter, North Reading, and a lot of other local bus companies have been bought up by, I can't remember the name of the big behemoth that's been doing it. Who knows what we're going to get for bids next year when this comes up, and more importantly, how much more it may cost us. So I think we need to work closely with Salter in terms of looking at the bus routes we have right now and seeing, if there's a way to make them a bit more, I won't say efficient, but because of the way we're currently structured, we use an awful lot of buses for the number of students that we actually transport. But, so yeah, busing will be a major topic of I won't say discussion, but research the rest of this year and over the summer, because we will have to go out to bid. I would like to go out to bid no later than December. That way, we have enough time. If we have to rebid, we'll have time to do it.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, so now we can move on to the proposed subcommittee. In your packet, there was a report back from the policy subcommittee. It kind of goes through recommended steps, and if you scroll down to number 3, policy revisions, this takes Ms. Higgins' proposal and makes some adjustments. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to look that over. And then maybe if one of the policy members wants to kind of highlight.
Right, so let's,
summarize.
first, the agenda item that addresses Mrs. Higgins' proposal, which was not just, she didn't just come up with it randomly. She was asked by the full committee, or she offered at the retreat to come up with a proposed subcommittee related to curriculum. We have an existing, as you know, we have an existing standing committee on curriculum in our policies. We don't actually have an active curriculum committee. We do have an ad hoc, that's the CISL. Her proposal, she submitted to the full committee in January, and then at the request of the vice chair, we put this on the agenda for the policy committee, subcommittee discussion in February to review, and we met with Ms. Higgins as well, and we had a very fruitful and comprehensive discussion going over some of her proposals. So her report is I think it's page 38 in the amended packet. I think it's page 40 in the original packet, but either way, her proposal kind of talks about some of the existing policy language. She shows some comparison with the mask policy language. Then there's also, towards the end of her submission, is a proposed function and goals for the new proposed subcommittee. So we focus on both aspects. I think to talk through the initial purpose and the initial charge of her recommended charge for the subcommittee. That's not really the purview of the policy subcommittee, but we did talk about it. And so our report back, which is also included in the packet, basically and great, I just went away. Okay. Basically goes through the process initially. So the process would be that according to the school committee, our school committee policy, BDE, which is about our subcommittees, a new subcommittee would be established by action or vote of the full subcommittee, a full school committee, sorry. Each subcommittee should be provided with a charge and a list of functions and duties, and once the subcommittee's charge is complete, it would be dissolved. And we do have standing committees, as I indicated, as well. So after our discussion, the policy subcommittee is making a recommendation that should the school committee decide to vote to establish this new subcommittee, that it's very important that a clear charge be allocated to that subcommittee, including the function and goals that we discussed, and we have some revisions to recommend. And that we also talked about limiting the sort of duration of that subcommittee and having an opportunity to revisit that subcommittee's existence on an annual basis. We came up with a recommended consideration to revisit that in September. It could also potentially be reconsidered in January. I don't quite remember why we settled on September, maybe to correspond with the school year. But normally our other committee appointments would happen in January. So I think that would be something to consider when we discuss the actual vote on the formation of this subcommittee. We also further recommend that should this subcommittee be formed, we would recommend eliminating, regardless of what happens with this subcommittee, we would recommend eliminating the standing committee of curriculum. We feel like that there's no reason to keep a standing committee on curriculum, regardless of what happens with this subcommittee. So that was sort of the first discussion about just our general guidance as a subcommittee on the process and sort of considerations for the actual vote to establish that new subcommittee. Again, I don't think we're making a specific my impression from our discussion was we weren't prepared to make a recommendation. Yes, you should establish a subcommittee. No, you shouldn't, because we're a policy subcommittee. We're not. That's not our purview. That's up to the whole committee. So that was the first part. And then, as Vice Chair Hall alluded to, we also had some discussion around related policy changes. Actually, I'm sorry. Let me first get to the subcommittee charge. So the next part of our report back lists some of our suggested revisions to what the original proposal was. So you'll see in that report back the original language proposed by Member Higgins, and then based on our conversation with her and our discussion at the meeting, some recommended changes to the overall function and goals or committee charge. Not substantial changes, but just to clarify really the role of the school committee subcommittee versus the staff, and try to make sure that we're pretty distinct in what our purviews are. We're not sort of overlapping with what is really a staff function. So you'll see those changes there in the report back. Before I move on, any questions on those two items? Because I think we'll probably revisit this when we consider the subcommittee formation at the next meeting, or whenever we're going to vote on it. And Bruce, did I miss anything? Member Menon?
No, no. Although I don't think the sunsetting language is not in this.
Right. That's correct. We didn't, I didn't list I listed in the body of the paragraph under policy subcommittee recommendation was that the members recommend limiting the subcommittee's initial duration until September 2023. So that wasn't included in the function and goals, but it was something we talked about. So that would be something to consider when the motion is made, including that language. Any other questions on those two items? Okay. So then we talked about policy revisions, which we feel could be brought forward at this meeting for a first reading and then considered for a vote, regardless of what happens with the subcommittee, because we feel like these are policy changes that we'd recommend regardless. And keeping in mind that we're doing a full audit, but we did feel like it would make sense to bring these forward now, and there may be some additional revisions that we'll bring forward after we've gone through these changes with our consultant. But these are pretty straightforward. So our first proposed revision is to policy BDE, which is related to the formation of subcommittees of the school committee. And we would propose just deleting the Curriculum Instruction Expectations subcommittee as a standing subcommittee of the school committee. So there would just be, I think, then 2 standing subcommittees, which is policy and finance.
And superintendent evaluations.
And I'm sorry, 3, yep. Thank you. And then the second revision that we're proposing is under policy IB, which is curriculum adoption. Revise the existing policy text to eliminate the reference to the subcommittee on curriculum instruction evaluation. So you'll see that strike-through text in the italics in that second paragraph in the report back. So the language that would be deleted is the reference to the subcommittee on curriculum instruction evaluation. In our discussion, none of us felt that this curriculum adoption should be anything but this, it shouldn't go to a subcommittee. There shouldn't be a subcommittee referral. That it just is a slippery slope, and we felt like that language was not necessary. So any questions on those 2 items? And Superintendent, I didn't know if you had anything else to add on those policy changes?
No, I think by, taking that out and then revising that kind of ties into some of the policy revisions we're looking to do. So.
Yeah. Right. I mean, when we come forward with our changes, one of the things we talked about right off the bat with our consultant was from MASC was that, we should clarify what subcommittees are and what advisory committees are. I think we had some discussion at the retreat about that. So we're going to have some clarifying language around that, definitely. But these seem pretty straightforward. Okay.
So the proposal then is not for a standing committee, if I understand that correctly?
Correct. The proposal is just to have a subcommittee on teaching and learning, which somewhat mirrors what the curriculum subcommittee initially was had, I don't know, we didn't even have a charge for that committee, basically,
Right.
so. But it wasn't to necessarily create a standing committee. I think Member Higgins was completely in agreement with that. I don't know that it matters if it's we felt like it's an opportunity also there are some concerns about that so-called slippery slope, and I think we can get into that more when we talk about the formation of the subcommittee, and I think allowing it to be revisited every year gives us that opportunity that if it's becoming too problematic, or if it's not needed, if we're finding that, that subcommittee doesn't need to exist, we don't have to reappoint it or reform it. Thank you.
Yes.
Another thing that was unresolved is the final paragraph, and specifically the last sentence.
Final paragraph where?
Which page are you on, Bruce?
I'm on page 2 of 2, is what it says at the bottom.
Of what document?
Oh, hang on. Page 46 of 48.
Okay, thank you.
So that last paragraph, for me, and we did discuss it, the last sentence, in acceptance of these reports, including a list of the high school program of studies, will constitute its adoption of the curriculum for official purposes. And I don't believe that we should be voting on curriculum. And I have no idea what official purposes means.
Bruce, this is our existing policy on curriculum adoption. This is not related to this subcommittee charge.
Okay.
Yeah, that's an IB.
But I think I would prefer, if you have concerns about that, this doesn't give any power to that subcommittee, nor does it really give any power to the school committee. I think it just sort of, but what I would suggest, Bruce, is we talk about this when we get to it, and if you have concerns about that paragraph, we should probably talk about that when we get to the audit, that in the audit.
Okay.
Unless you feel like it's something that really needs to be addressed today, or
No, I don't
okay.
feel it needs to be addressed
Okay.
today.
Okay.
I mean, I'm only noticing it just now as well. I think it's strange that it was adopted in 2018. But, like a lot of our policies that we actually don't follow, or several, not a lot. This one, I don't recall ever getting a listing of the high school program of studies as a school committee member.
They're in the handbook, I think.
I know the handbook, but we never get the new copy of the handbook either. It's just this device that lives somewhere, and I can go find it if I need it.
So if we need to
Right.
revisit that, my suggestion is we have a conversation with our MASC representative and see what the recommended language is there, versus opening it up right now, because I think we'll probably come back with my assumption is we'll probably fine tune this whole section at that point.
I would agree.
But it's thank you for flagging that.
Were there any other thoughts, comments?
Thank you.
So my hope was that we can revisit this. Our next meeting is coming up very quick on this coming Monday, and that's going to be mainly devoted to the school budget presentations. So then 2 weeks from that, our second March meeting is when we could address this, vote on it, and at that point, we could also move forward with these policy changes since we've just completed our first reading. So then it could be one package.
My suggestion is we have them as two separate agenda items and not necessarily just fall under the policy subcommittee. We've provided our feedback, so at this point it becomes, my view is it becomes a full subcommittee, a full school committee discussion. So my preference would be, if we're going to revisit these at a future agenda, is that we have the vote on the subcommittee at, Ms. Higgins can, have that, lead that conversation, and we can have a full discussion as a school committee, and then separately have the two votes on the policy revisions, which again, aren't necessarily connected. They don't have to be.
Right.
Yeah,
Could be independent of that.
But if we can keep them as their own agenda items, not under policy at this point, because we've
Great.
provided our feedback.
Can do. All right. Anyone else? Okay, so superintendent's report.
All right. So we just have a few items on the superintendent's report. So I think the first piece, a good transition in the budget process. As you all know, we did a level service budget presentation January 17th. Steve's done a nice job. The February presentation on the capital plan budget.
So March 6th is our preliminary budget proposal. That's where our school council members, along with the principals, will present their budget request to the school committee, tied into their school improvement plans, and also, I think hopefully we'll see a similar tied to our strategic plan and portrait of a graduate, how everything kind of all ties in. So that will be probably a longer school committee meeting, because each, principal will be coming in and doing that full presentation. And then what we did in the past is March and April, I'll provide regular budget updates, because our team will go back from the preliminary budget, and we'll start doing what we always have done, kind of digging a little bit deeper, our own budget deliberations with our budget holders to bring down not only the costs, but also to develop a priority list. And we're excited about that piece afterwards. I mean, we already have had a couple meetings where there's already been some great ideas, but I really want our budget holders to present their needs to the full school committee. So that's where we'll start. April 3rd, at that point, will be a public hearing. Our public hearing will have fine-tuned that budget, our budget proposal, to hopefully start to fall in the parameters of, the city allocations, and also meeting the needs of the school system. And then April 25th, that's the final presentation of school committee, where you will hopefully vote in favor of the budget at that point. So budget season is going to be a lot of work behind the scenes, but I think we're in a good spot right now. And we are looking forward to having the principals come in next Monday. So Ms. Furlong is working on kind of condensing a similar presentation. So our goal on Thursday is you'll have the PowerPoint with all of that information ahead of time before Monday's presentation.
Yeah, I would just make a comment. I hope to see a school council member with each principal when they do the budget presentation, because it helps us to see who they are, and it kind of gives a stamp of legitimacy. And I've sat through budgets that I know the school council wasn't involved with, and, so make sure they know they're invited.
They are, yep, absolutely. And that was part of our meeting today with the principals, kind of highlighting that, and highlighting the people on the school councils that are really doing a lot of the work, monthly work, and helping with school initiatives. My next presentation, or just update, is on school choice. So we do have some preliminary numbers. We are looking at first grade, so we don't really have a set number there. I think last year we opened that up for 10 first graders, so we might be looking at that once again. Second grade preliminary school choice, we're looking at 10, and third grade potentially 5. As we all know, the Mullen, there's going to be an extra grade. Our third grade class is moving up to the Mullen. Ms. Rossi, that'll be part of her budget presentation. Bless you. So right now, grades 4 and 5, we feel we don't have any school choice seats at this point. Grade 6, preliminary choice seats is 10, grade 7 is 5, and grade 8 is 5. Grade 9 for Mr. Wolf, this is a small 8th grade class to start with, is 161 students at this time. So Mr. Wolf is proposing grade 9 for 20 seats for school choice. Grade 10 and 11 and 12, we're kind of holding off. I think we filled those in the past. So I'll have definite numbers in a future meeting that we can all vote on. And as part of our school choice presentation, I'll bring back more information on that other law that we were discussing on tuition rates and tuition sets for that. Next, as Steve Burkholm has said, we've actually have done a lot of work on security and upgrading our security systems. The Raptor system, when we did our school safety summit, those are operational in all buildings, in every office. If you've visited the Brez, you put your little license in there and you get a pass. Our secretaries have done a great job, our administrative assistants. The Brez has actually went around to the other districts, other schools, and trained those administrative assistants in the Raptor system for visitors, and it's been extremely beneficial. It allows us to track. It also allows us to put alerts in there, for if there's custody issues and things like that. So it's been very effective. The other piece that we're really excited about is Vertica. Is a company, a camera system. As part of the MassQ big technology summit at Gillette Stadium, I got to meet with the Vertica company, and the cameras are so advanced that it does facial recognition. We piloted a couple cameras at the high school, and also vape detectors, high-tech vape detectors, and it's just been really a game changer of the quality. The other piece that's great for the administration, it's real time. So if an alarm goes off or there's an alert, it gets sent to the principal or administrator's cell phone, so they don't have to go to a computer screen to look up something. So the facial recognition, the other piece that's been very beneficial, if there was a suspect or something happened or intruder, you can utilize the camera system, put a description in. You could red sweatshirt at this time, and then everyone in that school that was wearing a red sweatshirt at that time will appear. So you're not going through hours of videos. So as part of that, and Steve Burkholm did an amazing job with a lot of background, a lot of research. Those cameras has a 10-year warranty, so it's not bringing in a camera, let's say a technician. All their technicians operate offline. If the camera is truly broken, they just send you another camera. So the costs and repairs and things like that are very cost effective. We've installed replaced all of the old cameras here at the high school. The next phase, as Steve said, we're looking at some blind spots at the high school, some corridors in that aspect. We're piloting the camera systems now at the NOC and the vape system at the NOC, and then also looking to add more cameras at the Bresnahan. The other piece that also, they're so high quality that it can detect cars, it can go, zoom down to a license plate. So the technology with camera systems is advancing similar to all the other technology all around us. Our safety drills, as we talked about, update on the safety drills. So the Brez and the Mullen, NOC, and high school have done their fire drills. They have all done secure in place drills. The Bresnahan and Mullen have done evacuation practice at the grade level per floor and per grade. And the next phase 2 for them is a whole school evacuation at the same time. And the same for Mullen. Mullen's on that same schedule. NOC has done the shelter in place, and they're planning for an evacuation drill for an intruder or active shooter. The high school did a nice job. They created tier safety, and so Mr. Wolf and a student would go throughout their regular schedule. They would process, if this happened, where would you go? The second phase for them, they completed an ALICE drill with the Newburyport Police Department. So they have one ALICE drill to date. So our administration has been doing a nice job following up on some of the safety drills. So that, with the increase of technology, with the Raptor system in the main offices, we feel like we've made a lot of headway in school safety. Katie, our new nurse leader, is overseeing retraining on Stop the Bleed program that we did a few years ago before COVID, and then offering to our staff our CPR and first aid. So it's kind of a great team effort.
with our wellness committee and safety committee, kind of really working together. And I just really want to thank our administration, because it was really important for like age appropriate, and you can just see the different levels of engagement of the kids. So it's just, they've done a nice job with that. And that's kind of where we're at with our safety update. I'm not sure if anyone has any other questions. Yes.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
One thing I remember you mentioning back in the fall was the potential to have staff use an ID instead of a fob to unlock the door. Is that still being pursued?
It is. So part of Vertica's security system and camera system, the other piece that they do have, and we're looking at grants. We just applied for a safety grant and for $50,000. Very similar. There's two aspects of Vertica. They do have the capabilities of using badge to come in to the doors. So that would increase, for students and for staff. So you can open up and shut down a door, so if you had the back door open for students to come in during school hours, as they're coming in for arrival, and then once school starts, you can lock all of those doors, and the only access students would have is the front door. Similar for the staff. The other piece that we really liked is automatic locks through the phone. So as an administrator, if there is an alert or security, they can use their phone to lock the doors. So the advancement of school safety and technology is, so right now, I think our mission for this year is to focus on the camera system, the Raptor system. I think phase 2 going into next year is looking at locking doors, and then also a badge system for students and staff.
That would also allow you to see who is entered.
Correct.
Right, as
It
that's
would
swiped.
timestamp all of that. The other piece, if people do leave a door, part of that camera security system, or they come into a door, is having cameras there that would do a facial recognition. So it would be able to pick up if they're part of the, our SIS system, or part of the faculty, like who's leaving. The badge swipe is easy because that would record who's coming and going throughout the building. If there was ever an intruder or anything like that, you'd be able to get an alert, and then you could start locking doors from the cell phone, which is a lot different. So that's kind of the next phase for us.
You have something? Yeah.
I just had a question on the Vertica. So is that a one-time purchase of cameras, or is there software that is a subscription you have to pay each year?
No, it's a one-time purchase. So you end up owning the cameras, but the warranty is what you're paying for. So we're paying for the warranty for 10 years of replacement. So they will just fully replace the camera instead of right now working with another vendor. When our cameras aren't working, they got to send out a technician at $250 an hour to fix the cameras. This company will just replace them. They can fix them off-site remotely, but if all of a sudden they can't fix it, they'll send in a camera within 24 hours. So you're not out without a camera for 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And that was the other piece. So you're really paying for that warranty piece. And we're utilizing some of the school safety grant funding for that. And then also, there was, from the DESE for ESSER 3 funds, there's also availability to use upgrades of school safety and camera systems and things like that. So we'll be able to utilize some of our ESSER funding for some of the more high-tech pieces of equipment. Yeah.
You have any other items there?
No, I think that's all I have.
Great. Any new business? Oh, but we're going to see each other in a few days, so. All right. Can I get a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.